Batavia, you want to tell them about this today?
I think we have to.
You sure?
I mean, what other choice do we have?
It's important. I mean, it is 2021. These things need to be talked about.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Diversifying Your Garden, Backyard Gardens Podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens Podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
one in the country,
One in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening as we learn to grow and grow for change. That's right, folks. You heard it first right here. We are diversifying our gardens. Well, we're at least trying to, right?
That's the goal.
That's the goal. It's, well, okay. First of all, let's get a couple things out of the way. So first things first, giveaway, seed giveaway closes August 1st, 2021. And this is going to give you your fall seeds to start. And also, just because we care about you guys, our t-shirts, which are down below, we have a coupon code. It's GROW 2021 and you get 10% off your order. Check it out and check out our Amazon shop. All the products we recommend. Hit it, Batavia. So with that being said, though, thank you guys very much for being here for another beautiful growing episode of the Backyard Gardens Podcast. Now, we have a pretty good listener question this week. It's timely. Let's put it that way. So let's get into that. This is from Instagram, Backyard Gardens TV. And it says, I just started a garden bed this year, and one of the things I'm growing is butter crunch lettuce. How do you know when to pick it? So we're going to break this down into sections. So first of all, I say pick it when you want to eat it. There's no right or wrong time, right?
Yeah, I think that anything from baby leaves and above. So think about what the container of baby leaves looks like at the grocery store. So from that size and up.
Now, let's be clear. Batavia said baby leaves, not infant leaves. So,
yeah, good point. Good point.
That was a terrible joke. I'm ashamed that I even said that.
I'm embarrassed that I laughed.
Hey, dad jokes rule. So I listened to your podcast a few weeks ago, and you were talking about bolting. And I just want to be sure that the lettuce does not bolt. So this person is looking to make sure their lettuce is not bolting. I also have a front yard garden, and it gets a lot of sun. Is that okay for lettuce? Tie-in. Okay, so now it's July. Most of our lettuces have bolted, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the reason why this individual is asking this is because I have stated that I plant some of my lettuce in more heavy shade to try and get it to last longer into the summer. So remember I told you I could tie in bolting lettuce into current affairs?
Yeah.
That's how.
Okay. I believe in you, so I figured.
Yeah. I thought it was a stretch, but so is it bad if it's in full sun? First of all, now we don't know what zone this person's in, which is okay. So what do you think?
So lettuce can grow in full sun. I think that we have to combine two things when we kind of fold in bolting. Sun is, sun scald could happen to lettuce leaves. I've seen that. Yeah. But it's really the heat. Right. So temperature. is what we're concerned with. And the intensity of the sun, sure, again, can create some damage to some of your lettuce. But I'm all for growing lettuce in full sun if you have the space. Obviously, that space is, again, hotter, if you will, compared to a shady spot, which is the reason why you were looking for and planting in that shady spot, young Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and that's just really what that is me trying to crack the code. So if you're trying to, I don't even know the correct term. My mind works faster than my mouth sometimes. If you're trying to stop it from doing what it's going to do, which is bolt and produce seed, you've got to find a way to keep it cool. Now, I mean, you could go out there in the middle of the afternoon and put ice cubes around it. That might help. You know what I mean? But
yeah, or you can plant inside of a cooler and then just, or maybe not that.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but putting it in the shade is a way. And I mean, let's be honest here. How much does that really keep it cool? I mean, there's days in the summertime where I sit in the shade and I feel like it's just as hot as it is in the sun.
Yeah, I think
so. It's a short time fix.
Yeah, it's kind of like, so by the time this airs, I will be back and safe. But I'm going on vacation and I'll be gone for like just 4 days. And I am looking at this lettuce and saying, I have to eat these heads before I go, these heads of lettuce before I go, because they're not going to make it. And this other lettuce, I may be able to get back and then finish them up. Right. So you're talking about, you could be stretching this out for a few days. You're not going to get months more out of this lettuce based on some precautions. One other thing to note, though, full sun and depending on how hot the temperatures are, you're going to notice a lot of wilting depending on the type of lettuce. So what did she say? Butter crunch? What was it? Butter leaf?
Yeah, she said butter crunch.
Yeah.
So
I've developed an affinity for Paris
lettuce, right?
Island romaine, or I imagine any romaine would be fine. It's holding on strong, where some of my other leafier greens, things that you basically harvest just the individual leaves from, man, they're on the struggle bus,
I harvest individual leaves from my romaine. I don't ever harvest a whole head.
No, I don't typically do. I don't either, but I'm saying that the vegetable that's forming a head, I believe is holding on in this heat better than the ones that are kind of just like wild and hanging and dangling and leafy. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it might even come down to how they can dissipate heat as well.
Well, hold on now. Come on through. Okay.
Yeah, you like that? That's a forward ass thinking right there.
I'm telling you, that's like a $15 word too.
It well, because I went outside in the spring just real quick, and it was at night, and I noticed that all of my tomato leaves were crunched in half. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with my tomatoes? Oh, Lord. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those nights where it's like a little bit chilly for them. And I realized, I thought in that exact moment that it was just the plant simply trying to hold on to heat.
Okay.
So if you have these lettuces, and butter crunch lettuce, if I'm not mistaken, is one that kind of splays out, doesn't really form a head. So it might be able to dissipate heat a little bit better because it'll get larger gaps in between it. That's just a total estimation and observation. I have no scientific basis in that. So don't anybody hold me to that. But seems like that could be part of it too versus different varieties. But, if you're cool, plant it in full sun. If you're hot, plant it in a little bit of light shade to try and extend it, but it's not going to last all summer depending on where you are. So
yeah, very succinct answer. I think if you're getting temperatures 70s or higher, you're not in a place where you're going to be growing lettuce all summer. No doubt someone's going to write into their congressperson and say, but I am. And if you are, we need full details. Right. So I
need a full report on it. So
I need a let out couch or a spare room because I'm coming to grow with you. That's what I need.
Yeah. And when Batavia says 70s, she literally means like 78, 79, not 70. Yeah. So, and and yes, lower 80s counts too. Okay. We understand there's a little bit of a spread there, but, so I think it's a solid question because, and I wanted to kind of dig into it a little bit because there was talk of when I had said I planted in the shade. So some people, if you've done it correctly, you might still be harvesting some lettuce. Or you could be like me and just watching it go to seed now and waiting patiently.
Yeah, and I know this is a sore subject, but there is that heat tolerant variety, those varieties.
Nope.
And in some instances, you do get a little bit more time if that is what you're planting, depending on where you are. There's so many asterisks and caveats associated with that. Go ahead.
Bullshit.
There is not. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Mine heat tolerant was the first one to bolt. Holla at your boy. So, and it was leafy like the butter crunch. So, and I believe it had butter in the name. Correct?
I don't know. I'm just going to say that my experience with heat tolerant lettuce had really rich and tasty lettuce in July.
Well, and to be fair to heat tolerant lettuces. Your heat and my heat are two different things. And my heat comes on strong and hard. Your heat comes on more gentle, correct?
It's just dripping. It's like,
you don't just wake up one day and it's like it was 70 the one day before and then it's 100 and it stays that way, right?
No.
It kind of slowly builds. Like, see, for us, it's different. I think that's really what the problem is, but whatever.
Okay.
I hate marketing. So, Batavia's giving me the cue to shut up and move on.
I was really thinking. I was ready to say the words. Could you see that in my face?
I did. I see it. I've been talking to you and I know you well enough. So, yep. So we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and we're going to diversify our gardens. A lot of y'all asked, how can you help support the Backyard Gardens podcast? Well, we have been busy and we have created a t-shirt line just for the gardener.
To visit our shop, go to the link in the show notes and check out the t-shirts and other goodies we have.
Now, these are super special t-shirts designed just for the gardener. So enjoy. Thank you for supporting the Backyard Gardens podcast, and we'll see you guys after the harvest. Okay, Batavia, we're going to diversify our gardens right quick, and I want to know what that means to you.
I think it's far more than kind of single crop growing, So I'm not talking like monocropping in your backyard. No, I'm talking about growing something that's more than a few plants, something that really can attribute to meals in your home. So while we've talked about previously, just in general, we eat a lot of the same things over and over again. That's fine. You could still, want to achieve a diverse garden and still eat the same things over and over, but you just don't want it to be cucumbers and tomatoes over and over. Like, so for me, diverse means I can in turn have diverse meals from my garden.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's mimicking as much as I can a grocery store selection. So you're hitting more food groups than just your vegetable food group. So that's kind of where I sit with that. Is that a fair statement?
I can dig it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that, I think you could still have a diverse garden and only grow vegetables. But I think there are, to your point, other things that you can fold into your garden. Everything from what you're doing with mushrooms, everything from edible flowers, obviously fruits, right? So
damn, Batavia, don't ruin the whole damn episode.
Am I giving it all
12
away?
12 minutes in, shit, we ain't got nothing to talk about.
And we thank you for listening to this episode of the Backyard Gardens podcast.
And many times, thank you. No, you're right. It's first of all, the whole thing is subjective. Right. There's I don't think there's a true definition of like, hey, a diversified garden. But if we go back in time, Leonard, hit the rewind button. Dork. So if you go back to when young Ben started his first garden, it was in the midst of a panic that 2012 was going to end the world. It was in the build up to that. We're talking 2007, 8, because I was woke back then about that shit.
Good on you.
See, honestly, what it was is when I was a kid, I heard like, hey, the Mayan calendar ends in 2012 and nothing that comes after that, that's the end of the world. And I was like, oh shit, okay. So moving forward, I started a garden, and I always wanted to say like, hey, if I didn't have access to a grocery store, would I be able to eat? And that started off like everybody else with tomatoes, cucumbers, basil, and lettuce. You know what I mean? I feel like those are pretty standard crops, right?
For me, it was probably even more limited, but yeah.
Yeah. So you move on to that, and then you go forward to now. So you and I both know that you can survive off of those alone, but it would be tough going. You would be hangry is not the word that would be going on in my house. So my wife and I would be choking each other in the front yard. So we had to add a protein source, and diversify the vegetables and add herbs and stuff like that. So,
well, you know what's interesting? So it sounds like for you have very originally wanted to grow food. We know that you're adding on to, you're supplementing some things in your regular grocery store bill, but you had the intention, if you will, to grow for, I don't want to say survival. I don't want to go that far, but I guess
that was my intention.
Okay. Well, I will go that far
Say
then.
it.
I think that the very difference between you and Di was, it was very hobby-like. Like, oh, it's cool to have tomatoes from my garden. It was not around like, I'm just not buying tomatoes in the summer and that's it and I'm moving on. Right. So there is.
Well,
I bring it up
yes
because
and no.
there was a progression for me. So let me share a piece for me and let me know how much this connects with you. So there was a progression with me where I just wanted to grow your typicals. So typical for me was peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes. And there were years where that's what I was growing. And then I became interested in what it would be like to grow insert vegetable number 4, insert vegetable number 5. And with that came this desire to say, not only do I want to grow different things, I also want to do so to consume different things, right? Like what happens when I never have to buy potatoes, as an example, in the summer. And so my desire to, I don't know which came first, the cart or the horse, but my desire to grow different things has led to a more diverse garden for me. And in turn, wanting to have a more diverse plate, right?
So first of all, when you said which comes first, the cart or the horse, is that what you said?
Yeah, is that not the saying?
No, you ruined it. You should have said, I don't know what came first, the tomato or the seed. Just saying.
Oh, well.
But
we're recording on a Friday, and I am like 45 minutes away from relaxing, so I'm not that quick.
I hear you. But no, for me, so like, I can see where my statement was like, oh, well, you're just trying to grow for survival, so there was a lot of pressure. And that was not the case for me. The case was, hey, this could happen one day. So just start growing your food now and learning. And then when it comes down, you can ramp it up if you had to. And the whole diversifying your plate thing, that for me was when I grew eggplants.
Interesting.
Because I literally only ate eggplant Parmesan. And that was it. I never ate anything else, any eggplant, anything else. I mean, hell, if you ask the average person walking down the street, how you eat eggplant, that's what they're going to say. And I remember going to the garden center and just looking at the vegetables and saying, okay, I'll take one of this, that, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I remember when I grew those eggplants and I started learning other ways, I was like, there's something here. There's something more to this.
Yeah.
And then I stuck a trellis and I put a green bean in the ground. And then I ate a green bean. And then I was like, shit, I don't like green beans fresh. So then let me can them. And then I liked them canned and, all these things. So we're not far off from, it's not like I grew and I was like, this year I'm growing enough tomatoes to last me a year. That was not the case.
Okay.
I was happy to get 3 tomatoes.
Yeah.
So
I do also believe that there was a revelation, right? Similar to your eggplant, with what I could grow, right? So I've seen gardens in the city, in specifically Illinois, in Chicago, and they pretty much look the same. There are a lot of the same things, right? And again, it's your staples. And it took me a while to realize that there are people in my climate that are growing many more foods, right? So there are things I see at the grocery store. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll put this in my cart. I'll make this dish. But it never occurred to me that, oh, you could totally grow that in your front yard or your #backyard garden. And so I think that encouraged me to take those extra steps to say, wait, so sure, I could go to a restaurant and have some different things on my plate, but I can actually start that at home, right? So that's the reason why you see the seed vault with so many different types of seeds and packages of seeds. And, every year there's something different being grown. So
here's my quote of the day. You should not be diversifying your diet when you go to a restaurant. You should be diversifying your diet at home.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Okay. Yeah, right. So it's like of course you're going to be, when you go out, they're going to have something odd. But when it comes to vegetables and stuff, like I posted a thing about the green tomatoes the other day. And it's like I went to a restaurant and it was $10 for some green tomatoes. How much bullshit is that? The only reason why they got green tomatoes is because they were harvested at the wrong time or somebody got anxious and early and they fried them. And now we have to pay an absorbent amount for these green tomatoes. So that's crazy in itself.
I was just looking, I was at the grocery store the other day and I took a picture of, they had green tomatoes, and I don't want to say on sale. There was a price point for green tomatoes, and I kind of laughed because, again, it's a delicacy in a lot of places. And
damn right.
I just had one of my great aunts. They were in visiting, and her first question was, "Do you have any green tomatoes?" And I'm like, "It's June, not yet for me."
That's why we have this fresh foodie shirt.
There it is.
You know what I mean?
There it is.
Because, I mean, but see, that's the thing is, as a gardener, that's regular shit. Do you know what I mean? That's a regular meal, like fried green tomatoes, like every spring and every fall. Most gardeners in the South, at least, they be munching on some green tomatoes. So, and as I started growing more and more, I put a squash seed in the ground, and then one squash plant gave me so many summer squash that I almost never wanted to grow them again. My eyes started to open, and then I started looking at land, and I was like, well, shit, this is just grass that I got to cut. Why don't I just go ahead and put a garden on top of it, and then I don't have to worry about it. Fast forward to this year, I was talking to my wife just yesterday, and I said, hey, I think we need to go to the grocery store. And she says, get this. No, we don't need to go to the grocery store right now. You've gotten too many vegetables out of the garden. We have to eat them down. And I was like, that is one of the first times in my life that has actually been a statement where it's like, we may not. So then I go and I look and I say, okay, well, what do we have? All right. And this is not a brag test, but this is just because of diversity. We have 5 mushrooms. We have 2 pounds of snow peas. We have a pound of kale. We have a couple heads of lettuce. We've got some carrots. We've got some turnips, and we've got some radishes and parsnips. So, and some green beans, some dragon tongue green beans. I had to say dragon tongue for David. Love you, son. But and so as you look at it, you're like, that's diversity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a well-rounded diet. And then if you pull in the chicken eggs, which I know is not a garden, but that's part of us, then we have those proteins. You know what I mean? So
yeah, the beauty in that, though, is it does, I think, for new and more mature gardeners, it leads you to needing to be creative, right? So that doesn't sound like a meal to me.
Well, not yet.
Yeah. But I think that, again, going back to we commonly have the same dishes on our menu at home over and over again, right? And those things don't necessarily, what you described, what you listed, don't necessarily fit what is normally on my plate. But that's the beauty in growing your food, right? It makes you stretch a bit. It goes back to the point of it can lead to a more diverse plate. Like the things I eat in the summer are like, I'll never, and it's not even me eating just because I'm eating seasonally. The things I eat in the summer, I would never combine as a meal any other time. But it's this is what I pulled off of a plant. And so this is what I'm going to be eating.
Well, and that's why, as a gardener over time, it's a lifestyle, and it's your diet, veganism is a lifestyle. Carnivores are a lifestyle, whatever, what have you. But then you come into this and now you have the gardener diet, and it's literally you're a dump truck of whatever's coming out of your garden, and you're just going to fucking eat it because you don't want to waste it. You want to give it away, but there comes a point where you're like, I don't want to give everything away.
Yeah.
So you have to find and get creative ways to cook stuff. And, it's like all those things I listed, like we ended up having omelets with kale in it, with basil and some other stuff, and then we cooked the green beans and lightly fried some snow peas, and there you go. That's a meal. So, and all those things added up, it's a lot. So for us, when we go to the grocery store, that's about what we would buy anyways.
Yeah, I don't believe you. No, I mean, I think
You don't?
No, I think the idea is that you may not buy tomatoes. You would buy other things, right? There are other things that would be on your list. Those things may be included, but there are other things that would feed into what we would consider a more traditional meal, right? And I think my point is that, and it could be that you guys have shifted over the years, but I guess my point is that if I was going to make Sunday dinner and I went to the grocery store, I would probably buy some meat, some type of chicken or beef or something. I'd probably buy, some type of vegetable, insert whatever looked good at that point, and I'd probably have a starch of some sort, right? And so like a potato or, some type of grain or something. And that would be the meal. I don't always have those things in my garden, but you better believe Sunday's dinner is still going to be good. I guess that's what I'm trying to get to.
You stopped. You froze. Go ahead. Say that again.
Yeah.
You better believe Sunday's dinner
is going to be just as good. I think you got it on my end. So
yeah. So, and if you think about that, like your grocery list that you said, like, if you replace the meat with the eggs, then it's the exact same thing. Like, we just don't eat the meat. So we had the starch and the turnips and stuff like that. Either way, what I'm saying is we lean into our garden and what we can get off of our property more so than some others do. So, we really rely on it and say, like, hey, what are we eating right now? Now, the missing piece to all of this is fruit. Okay, which happens to be my favorite. I've stated before that if I could have a fruit garden and I would only grow fruit, I wouldn't even grow vegetables. And I know tomatoes are a fruit. I know, I get it, but I'm talking about those sweet nectars of fruits. Like our strawberries are done right now. We have pear trees that, for the love of God, will not give me a pear, and I don't know what to do. I'm about to go out there and just like rub on it every day. We finished, our blueberries are up, and then our blackberries are on an off year. So, there's different things that we have to contend with, but it's all in the effort to kind of make a well-rounded diet. So if we had to live off of our land, we could. Now, that being said, I need to get quite a few more fruit bushes and stuff like that so we could do that, because if you do that, it's coming. If you do that, then you're going to realize how much you need to grow to survive off of.
Yeah.
So, which is why Batavia and I are going to do this thing. Do you want to tell them, or you want me to tell them?
There's a thing that we're going to be doing. I'd like you to tell them.
You want me to tell them?
Do you want me to give you a pre-thing, Bill? There you go. All right.
So, in the month of August, Batavia and I are going to try low-key eat every single lunch from our yard every single day of the week. So that can include, and I think we've discussed this ad nauseum, that can include anything that we've grown or have grown and preserved in the past, right?
That's right.
And that's it. Anything else? No bread or anything like that?
Yeah, none of those other things. Seasonings, we don't have to use only herbs from the garden. You can use those staples like salt and pepper. You can use oil. So those kind of condiments, if you will, can be used. I mean,
ketchup, mustard, all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, but if we're not going to do like a bowl of ketchup unless you made it with tomatoes from your garden.
No. And I mean, the whole idea for me was like, it's eye-opening when you sit down to do something like this. Like, wow, it takes such and such amount in order to, to feed just one person, let alone 3 or 4. So it's going to be interesting. I've never actually done that. And it's only one meal a day. So it's like a worst case scenario, I skip lunch. Let me tell you, I got a few. I can skip a couple lunches.
But the intention,
I could skip 30 lunches.
Yeah, the intention is to have 31 meals, during lunch that came from our garden. And I'm super excited about it. And we've talked about this before. We've both thought about it individually, and over the last year plus, we've been thinking about kind of what would this look like. And I think it's really a test I think the volume, let's start there. The volume in either of our gardens could get us through 31 meals. But
Yes.
the misery that would, we would experience if it was just tomatoes and, just beans, right? This is one of the reasons why continuing to pour into our gardens and trying to diversify them, I think we're going to reap the benefit over those 31 days, right? So that's a piece. It's like, when can you do this? Well, you could do it anytime you want. There's some people that eat the same thing literally every day. And in those instances, if you're growing those things, go for it. But for me, I do like to have something different on my plate at least a few times a week, and so I haven't worked out all of the recipes in my head yet, but there is a level of confidence that I have just based on some of the things I'm introducing to my garden this year that maybe I didn't have a year ago or 2 years ago I know it's going to be like, it's a drinking game. So, with that diversity, I feel really good about going into August.
Yeah. And we picked August because, that's like your height of your garden. You've gotten a lot. If you're canning, you should have canned some. You should have frozen some. I'm about to go freeze some kale when we get done with here. So all these different things, they kind of come together. And part of me too is like, well, I don't really want to go through all of my produce and then not have stuff put away for winter because that's a big thing in our house is canning. That's a really big part of this. But it's, it's going to be interesting. And I know people seem like, I did it for a year and I was on the road getting roadkill and flaying it up. And that's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to see what our gardens will produce and how they will satisfy what we want. And I think my prediction is if everything goes like it is now, I'm going to be eating a shitload of salsa, just saying. So, which I'm cool with, but, I think that what we might find is maybe our taste buds will change a little bit too. Yeah. When you're focusing on fresh foods without all that other bullshit, at least one meal you will change.
I think that it'll be interesting to see what the, just as observations, what happens around those meals. So around lunch, what happens for breakfast or dinner? Are we front loading or back loading?
Right.
Are we wanting to eat something that's not so fresh, or the hope is that we want to carry that on to other meals, right? Eating a little bit, you could obviously do some fried green tomatoes. You can do some fried eggplants. You could do a lot of things that are heavier, but I'm envisioning us eating a little bit lighter for those lunch meals. And I'm going to be curious to see if that carries on to other, your dinners and your other lunches. I think that for August in particular, to your point, it is a high production month. And it's actually a pretty busy month too in the garden for me, inside and or outside and inside, now that I've taken and picked up canning, right? So it's going to be interesting trying to fit that in, if you will. But it's kind of crazy to say, like, can we fit in eating from the garden one meal a day? And like, we damn sure better be able to,
Yeah, this thing that you have decided to do, everybody listening to this, like, dude, you grow food. That's what we do. Like, let's not fool ourselves. We grow food to eat. It's not about like, oh, my tomato plant's so beautiful. Yeah. Oh, oh, this cucumber, look at the flowers, all 158,000 yellow flowers. No, bullshit. It's all about that cucumber that you're going to get and how you're going to use it at the end.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's important to remember when we do this. I think a lot of people, especially when you get into bring in the social media aspect of it, there is a lot of like oohs and ahs about how gorgeous things are and stuff. And I'm not trying to take that away. That is a part of it, but that is not the part of it. So
yeah, I think it's a building block, if you will. The appreciation for food is an important step as you continue to kind of develop your garden. This is the return on our investment, right? Of investment of time, investment of energy, investment of resources, right? So you said something along the lines, and I'm going to actually go back when I listen and I'm going to write that piece down, but something along the lines of, will our garden produce in such a way that meets our taste buds, right? I'm paraphrasing there from what you said 6 minutes ago. But that's really, really critical. You can have mounds and mounds of a thing, but is that the thing you really want to consume, and how do you want to consume it?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, that's how I am with eggplants. I get mounds and mounds of eggplants, and I don't want to eat that many damn eggplants. You know what I mean? So that's a part of it.
So now I'm going to have to go back and note all of our hopes and wishes and dreams from this particular episode. But another thing is, I'll be interested to see how much this influences kind of my future garden design. Right.
Leonard, get a pen and start writing, son. Let's get this down. Let's help Miss Batavia. Her hands get tired. I mean, really, you ain't got to do it. That's why we got Lenny Lynn.
Yeah, the difference in having him and then it actually getting done. But okay, yeah, I'll put all my faith in him.
Everybody out there, collectively hold your breath. So we had talked about, straight up, we had talked about like making this a whole big thing and saying like, everybody join us and, get in on it. And Batavia and I we stepped back from that because we just didn't know how many people would be interested in it. But what I am going to ask is we're going to ask for your help. So during this time frame, if you would please put some recipes on Instagram and tag us in your stories or wherever, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, shit's going to get a little difficult. I actually think I'm going to make it until about the 18th to 19th day before I start struggling. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that because I'm pretty good about like, I can power through some shit, but I think towards the end, I start getting wore down pretty hard.
Yeah. So, I'm going to meet you there and say around 18 or 19.
You think you can make it the same?
Yeah. Well, I think that's where the struggle is going to come in, because what I don't want to do is I can have 31 salads, even with not lettuce, because we know that's done, but some other leafy green. And that's not what this is for me. Right. So no. I don't want to do that. And what I commonly do, and I'm sure others, leftovers are huge. Right. So I don't also want to eat basically, 4 meals, and eat them across, week 1, 7 days of the same thing. I don't want to do that. This is really, it's a challenge for you and I. We're challenging ourselves. And I'm not saying that it's going to be 31 absolutely different and, new and innovative meals. Maybe it could be if you guys actually do tag us and,
yeah, I mean, the idea is not to survive, it's to thrive. That's what we want to do with this.
Wait, no.
Damn.
Yeah, that's the kind of bail I
there
want. Yeah. The first time was just my fingertips. I didn't, reach far enough.
But I mean, that's the whole idea behind this is like, can we eat, within reason what we want? I mean, yeah, you're not going to be able to get a steak.
Yeah, no.
If you want one, but I have an advantage. I have eggs and I will be fishing at the time too. And that does count. So I can fish. Now it's going to be a little hot, so it might be a little tough. Fish don't bite then, because I do a lot of fishing anyways. I got a lot of compliments on my green tomato video about my fish cutting board that I found for free.
Yeah. Well, we didn't talk about this. What do you think about bartering? What do you think about things from someone else's garden that maybe
go for
you
it.
aren't growing?
I mean, I think that's a big part of the podcast is the community. So I say go for it. I don't have a problem with it. I think it's important. Now, I mean, you probably got somebody, I know you're like, yeah, this dude's over here raising hogs. He got some sausage. Yeah, I know how you work. You go out there and find something. I'm going to be looking on Craigslist in the Chicago area.
Holler at me. Yeah.
Batavia's going to be like, I got all y'all's tomatoes. Who's got the meat? Who's got this, that? Yeah.
One of my friends always says when I start to post pictures about my garden, like, where's the pizza plant? Like,
yeah. And you know what you tell them? It's the basil and the tomato. And those are all your ingredients. So, yeah, it's going to be crazy. And so if this was a contest, which it is not, I want to be very clear. This is a personal contest. I would say that the goal would be, the winner would be whoever lost the least amount of weight during this
Oh,
challenge.
that's pretty cool. So the idea
Yeah.
is that you've not starved yourself because you've been eating so
Yes.
little, right? That
Yep,
is
you
my
thrived.
favorite. No, sign me up. That is a contest between you and I.
Okay.
And that
So we will keep, but in the interest of privacy, we will keep our weights to ourselves. But we will see. And so you can't be gorging yourself in the beginning, in the morning, and night. You can't be like, oh shit, I'm about to get this pizza and I'm gonna get down. I'm gonna gain 20 pounds.
31 days of breakfast, cupcakes. Yeah, okay. So I'll be
Yeah.
again, we talked about how honest I am when it comes to the garden, right? So and
Yeah.
and that's the same
No,
for
and
you.
I am too. So, and I plan. I mean, and through all of this, I actually plan to go a little bit more into all of my other meals as well. So not totally, but add as much as I can because I want to enjoy
yeah,
it.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I want 2021 to be a garden season that I remember forever.
Come on. Really? Yeah, I'm super
course.
excited about it. And I think the only reason why I didn't sign on for potentially all meals is because August is also a hot time for me to hang out with friends and loved ones. And so a meal is always accompanied by that. So,
Well, and that's important too for me when you think of these things. It's like you got to be to where you can live your life. You'd be like, yeah, y'all going out to eat? I'll be there in 20 minutes. Let me go home and get my tomato. I'm going to eat it like an apple on the way there, but I'm going to get it. Like, no, that's not how this is going to work.
No.
So, and I mean, honestly, do you think your garden, as of right now, do you think your garden could support you for a whole month every meal?
well, as of this recording, I'm going to be very positive and say, realizing that things will come to production because there's so much that's still I don't even have flower heads on some things. I'm going to say yes, that there's enough food within my garden to support me for 31 days. Now,
I think there is too for your garden.
you've
for
seen
you.
what I've been growing. Yeah. Now the question though, and this is where I love starting off with lunch. The idea is, will I tap out first? So sometimes it's embarrassing to walk to Mrs. Gardner's point, to walk past your garden and say, I'm going to go to the grocery store or I'm going to go and pick up this, that, or the other, and
Yeah.
so that would be the challenge. But let's just say this is year one of this challenge for you and I. Who knows what's to come?
Well, I'm not tapping out. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that now. I'll just fucking starve. So.
Well, no, I meant
'cause I
31 days, all meals. In that instance, at what point would I be just enough of the basil leaf sandwiches? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that I think if you did every meal, I think I'd have to add some kind of bread or something to diversify it, or I'd have to come up with something. I don't know what I would have to do. Maybe make potato pancakes or some shit. I don't know.
Well, we can think about that over the off season and.
Oh yeah, we'll figure that out. But and that brings up a good point too. Like back in the day, do you know? I don't even know if I talked about this on here yet. But I'm going to suburbia. Do you know the whole point behind suburban houses and all that stuff? Why they have a half acre of land?
I do, and I want you to.
Have I said that before?
Yes, but please share it again. It's important
Okay.
that you do.
So suburban household neighborhoods are all, if you look at them, they're generally in a half acre of land. Sometimes now it might be a quarter acre, but whatever. Historically, they're a half acre. And what that was is back in the day when they started it is you could have a half acre land and you could have your chickens, a couple pigs, and a full-blown garden on the back and support your family off of your half acre land. That is the whole design behind that. So I have a half acre of land, a little bit more, but if I turn that into a complete garden in the backyard, then I would be able to do that for my family. So the way houses are now, most people sit in the backyard and they hang out. Well, back then they didn't. That's why every single house also had a front porch, because people were hanging out on their porches and they didn't hang out in the backyard because that's where all the pig shit was and all the work was back there. They had to be out on the street where they didn't see that stuff. So, imagine if you had the amount of garden that history says we should. I put air quotes around that because I don't think that you should have any certain size garden. But imagine then the diversity that you could have on your little half acre farm. That's a big change.
So 2 points, 2 statements. One, the first time you told the story about Suburbia on the podcast that since I've joined was on the very first episode that we were on together when you interviewed me. And so I am not.
So that's why you know.
Yeah, well, no, but I'm also, it's nostalgic for me. So it's like, oh, look at this kind of full circle moment. 2, it's so very interesting. I just, as of this airing, finished all of my garden stuff, including the very final pieces. The very final piece was cleaning my garage, but that's not that interesting. Was like doing all of my flower arrangements. Right. And so I was on the road and I drove past a kind of huge, like in front of a library type of flower bed, really big. And I said to myself, I took a picture of it. I said to myself, my little front yard and backyard, it's compact. It's not a big amount of space. And I've packed things in. But then I thought, your next step is like planting. What would you do in that big of a flower bed? Right. And so to your point of what would you do? What would Batavia do with if I had 2 times the size lot that I have now? Right. Like I'm not even close to mastering it, but I've really become efficient at growing in the space I have. But what happens when you expand it? We talked about this with a listener question a few weeks back. Like, I think she had something like an acre or something. And the question really becomes, be careful what you wish for, maybe? No, it would be a total adjustment, and that's super duper exciting, right? So just 2 comments around that. And while we all want more, sometimes it is a challenge, right?
Yeah, and I think too, when you look at these large swaths of land and stuff like that, people, instead of packing more in, I have a feeling what happens is things get spaced appropriately.
Good point.
First, you know what I mean? Because a lot of our problems come from us trying to pack stuff into the smallest place we can. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
Absolutely.
That's the goal. That's every farmer's goal. I'm gonna get 2 more centimeters in between each corn. I can do it. So, but that's really where we stand with that. And I think that if I had more space, so first of all, the reason why I don't have 50 to 60% of my yard a garden is because I have a septic system in the middle that the builder did not build quite correct. So there's literally not much room to put stuff on. But that being said, I am packing as much as I can into these spaces constantly, filling more and more in. So it's an uphill battle, and that's where a lot of our problems come in. So I say if you had an acre, I think you would have double what you have now.
Okay. Yeah, I think that...
But it would be well spaced and nicely kept and neat and stuff.
It would be more diverse, though, because I would totally find spaces. I don't know if I would do... there are a few different fears I have, and I won't turn that into this episode. But
don't do that.
I would... there would be other things I would grow, and mushrooms would absolutely be one of them.
So let me ask you. What would be something, if you had more space, let's say you had an acre, what would you put on your land that would make it more diverse?
I would do fruit trees.
Yes.
That would be one of the very first things that I would plant. And that's interesting because the question becomes, what do you want a bunch of? What do you want a whole lot of, right? And I eat apples, sure. It would probably be more like, pears and plums and things that I enjoy every single time I eat them. Apples are very diverse, though, so I'm going to go with all 3 because I got an acre. But it would definitely be fruit trees. I would definitely look for things that have different texture. And mushrooms would be, this is the reason why I'm so proud of you this year for what you've done. Mushrooms would absolutely be, I won't say the second thing, but a thing that I would put into like year 1 of my planning. I would expand my melon planting. But I don't know if that's probably a cheat because I am growing melons already.
No, it's not.
and depending on, I'm going to go big, depending on where I would live, because I'm not claiming that space for Chicago. I'm going with avocado trees. That's what I said. Yeah.
No, but so, what's interesting, Batavia? Everything you mentioned was a fruit.
Yeah. I'm not
Except for the
changing my
mushrooms.
garden to fruit only, damn it. I'm not going to do it.
You're so close. You're so close. Yeah, I mean, for me, it would definitely be fruit trees. It would be more melons, just like you said. And then it would be more bushes and stuff, like more permanent permaculture type stuff.
More perennial planting. Baby, come on with that bale. Yes.
More shit that you don't have to like replace every year and plant. And, I mean, there's something to be said about every year I go out there and I'm like, oh, look, the blueberries are flowering. Oh, look, there's some blueberries, and I don't have to do anything. I mean, I have to take care of them, but you don't have to plant them. But you were saying you like apples and this, that, and the other. And this was a big lesson for me. We went to a pick your own apple farm when we lived in New England. Huge up there. And we got we would go up there and pick 5 bushels of apples at a time, which is an exorbitant amount of apples. Okay. I mean, it's crazy how many we had. And we ended up, and this was right when we got into canning. This is why we did it. So we had dehydrated apples. We had apple fruit roll-ups. We had apple sauce. We had apple butter. We had apple jelly. We had all of that stuff then we had put away for years, and it wasn't bad, and you find ways to do it. And let me tell you, we had apple pie for days, son. It was an all-American household all fall. So, I mean, that being said, like when you have these trees, and I think that is where the bulk of your surviving food comes from to get through winters and stuff like that, are big fruit trees and stuff. I mean, I had a friend who I went and did I filmed a music video, and they had a pear tree in the front yard. And there was all these pears just everywhere. It was like a rotten mess. They never ate them.
Yeah.
They didn't know they could eat them.
Oh.
And I was like, bro, you have enough food in this tree to last you 6 months.
Yeah.
You could live off these pears. And I was sitting out there in heaven eating pears under the tree.
So there are 2 more comments. One, that level of diversity, right? So I don't want to, it's just not just the treat that you could have fruit and then turn it into some like dessert. It's just not that. But again, you're able to kind of offset some of the other things that you're eating, right? The second thing is, did I forget the second thing? I may have forgotten the second thing. Oh,
that's okay.
It goes back to the bartering. Right. So I have a friend that asked, oh, are you selling your vegetables current day? Are you selling your vegetables? And the reality is that I'm not growing enough food to really say, okay, there's a sale here, right? You could sell anything, but there's not enough volume, right? And I don't know that in my future I really want to have something at the farmer's market and sell vegetables. But what my hope on an acre would be is I can dang sure go somewhere and barter for some eggs, because I'm afraid of, chickens getting sick. And so therefore I don't want to, tend to them, so that's critical. I think a part of being self-sufficient, let me just finish. A part of being, because I'm about to get preachy, a part of being self-sufficient, I'm standing on my milk crate, for me is still community, right? You know, come on, Leonard.
So that was the whole thing. So first of all, let me say this. When you buy the house across the street from me, you can have all the eggs you want. I'll give them to you. I am putting a lot of pressure on Batavia right now. And yes, I know what I'm doing. Thank you. But no, you're exactly right. And that was the whole thing too, is like when everything did go doo-doo, we were talking about like why I started gardening. Like community was a big part of it. Why should I grow squash when he's got a row of squash down the road, when I can just go say, hey man, I'll give you a bushel of apples for a bushel of squash, which I do not want a bushel of squash, but you get what I'm saying. And it's important. So, and not only is it important to, and I'm not just saying this because we have the backyard kitchen and all that, but diversity doesn't necessarily come from what you grow, but it also comes from how you prepare it. So just look at how I said the apples.
I mean, we're at an all-time high for bail counts in this episode.
We are. So, and I mean, that's just all part of it. So, what is one thing before we go to the recipe? What is one thing that you have added to your garden this year for diversity? At least one thing.
Corn.
Oh, nice. Solid corn. Damn, you could make cornbread off that shit if you did it right, I bet. I'm going to be jealous as hell if you make some fresh cornbread. I'm coming up there.
My eyes just watered because I didn't consider that. I don't know that I have enough for that, but I'm going to search online.
Yeah. So mine was, it was mushrooms and black-eyed peas. So, and the black-eyed peas is another protein source. And it's also a deterrent.
So to be fair,
beans, the more you eat.
To be fair, there has been a little bit of influence because Ben and I have been talking about this for a little bit this year. There's been some influence that this goal of ours has had on what I've planted in my garden. And I just remember that I was supposed to plant some type of pea or bean that I could harvest in the summer. So now I have to do some Google searches to see how many days I have between now and August and what can be produced. Stand by.
Yeah, so I've been, and my wife even told me I have to grow corn this year, and I didn't do it. I just don't want to grow corn. Yeah. I don't know why, and I think I need to pay attention this year and really figure out. Maybe I'll go off of your call about growing corn, how to do it next year, and if I should. I just, I talked to somebody the other day, and he's like, it ain't worth it. And so, I don't know. We'll see. But I do know this time. Whose recipe is it?
Rock.
For the recipe of the day.
Rock, paper, scissor it.
Okay, it has been brought to my attention that Batavia has something that she needs to say, so go for it.
We have an announcement here. People, we have an announcement. So somehow, some way, we've gotten off track with the recipe. So as you've listened, if you're faithful and have listened to every week, there's a slew of 18 Ben recipes, and then we get back to trading off on them. And so that's why you're doing the recipe of the day today to try to get us back on track where when we meet.
Is there a time frame where I did too many recipes?
Oh, there's never too many recipes from you, brother. Never.
Okay.
18 in a row would be too many, but it wasn't quite 18.
Okay. We're doing our unusual counting thing because everybody knows we can't count on this show. Yeah, so solid note. I'm going to give us, this is so easy, but it's a palate cleansing recipe. So why you roll your head?
No, that was me stretching and relaxing and ready to get into it, man.
It's stupid easy, but remember, this is how we eat in our house. So it's in honor of our cucumbers that are coming up. So every single night, we eat a cucumber. And we eat it with our food. We slice it, and then when we lay it out, this is key. When we lay it out, it overlaps. So you slice it, you know what I mean, down the middle. And then you just kind of like a deck of cards, let it all splay out a little bit. Sprinkle salt and pepper on it. And then that's what we eat every single night, at least that. So the reason why we lay it down like that is because it doesn't salt and pepper the entire cucumber slice, just a piece of it. Then we do other ones where we use a mandolin and we cut them a little thinner. I don't put the mandolin on the thinnest setting. I put it on the thickest setting. And then we soak them in rice vinegar. And I add 1 drop of hot chili oil to it. Now, this is hot chili oil, okay? You could also chop up a jalapeno and put in there, just a couple pieces, but you just want to get a little bit of heat in there and then salt and pepper it up. You can do that. That's taking away from the palate cleansing. And then we also will take our cucumbers and we will chop them and soak them in Italian dressing and snack on those. So, and we use a fat-free Italian dressing. So, all super simple ways to use a cucumber, but just, again, in the diversity aspect, that kind of adds to it. So
that is cucumber 3 ways. Nicely done.
Yeah, if I was on a cooking show, then not the backyard kitchen because that's not what it's like. But if I was on like a Food Network cooking show, I'd be like, and today we're having cucumbers served 3 ways. And all of a sudden, it's that much better.
Yeah. So one, like almost no recipes do I say like what? Like I enjoy them all, right? And 2, I think for something that puts on so much fruit, I think we have to bring forward ways to eat them that aren't uber complex, right? Simple ways to get through them and really enjoy them. So your cucumber 3 ways is a great example of that.
Hold on 1 second. My dog is freaking out. That's
Sherry Dog, do you have a 4th
everybody.
cucumber recipe? Yeah. Okay.
Actually, she does love cucumbers. Yeah, she's known to eat them. But you're right. And, when it's heavy like that, it's anytime that you go and you are building stuff over. Hold on. Damn it. Before I had to quiet the dog down.
You went all, Terminator just a minute ago, which I think I love. No, I was just saying that for something that puts on so much fruit, right? It's really important, I think, for us to share with each other and the audience simple ways to enjoy them. So you just don't feel like you have a 5-gallon bucket of cucumbers and you're like, I don't know what the F to do,
Yeah.
So it's...
I mean, that's so true because let's say you don't want to can them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like and if you buy 1 plant, you get 3 cucumber plants in there. Dude, that's a lot of cucumbers. So you're right. And it comes on heavy. So,
and I'm going to keep it really real, son. Cucumbers are one of those things that taste so much better out of the garden. I mean,
So it has now been almost 2 years since I've eaten a cucumber.
I'm sorry, but...
Because we didn't produce last year, and I refuse to eat them because they're just not good out of the grocery store. They're not pleasant. They are bitter. They have that wax on them. A lot of times they're soft in the middle. They're not ripe or they're overripe. And I mean, so my wife, she'll bring them home and she'll put them on my son. I'm like, I'm not eating that shit. Get it off my plate. And she cuts it and I'm like, what are they doing? Saving seeds? Like, this is so far overripe. It's ridiculous. She's like, you're such a snob. And I'm like, no, when you grow your food, you get it. She seems to have forgotten. So
I, in full transparency, I love tomatoes and cucumbers from the garden. And there's the months after the harvest is gone. And then the months like around your June period, I stopped buying, store-bought tomatoes, store-bought cucumbers. And around December is when probably more like January, February is when I start buying them again. So there are a few months I'm eating them and it's miserable, but I love the texture of both. And some of the meals that I eat, like fresh salads or whatever, it's just not complete without them. But cucumbers in particular, when I buy them, and they're fucking expensive, hard F there. It's like, in some cases, 99 cents for a freaking cucumber. Like,
and you know what a plant produces.
99 cents for a cucumber? If I could figure out a way to smuggle them somewhere and then sell them, that's what I'd be doing. Lock me up.
So what I want you to do is this year when you go pick your cucumbers, I want you to count $1 every time you put one in the basket.
Done and done, man.
That's a game changer. And then you make some pickles out of it. Boom. It's even more. So now if it's $1 a cucumber, why is it not $100 for a jar of pickles? Hashtag just saying.
I don't know what jar of pickles you're getting 100 slices in, but okay.
No,
but I get your point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everybody, just have a diverse garden if you can. And if you can't have a diverse garden, then cook diversely with the same ingredients. It will be to your delight. And your family will love it. So
how about I try this one? hashtag BYG podcast. And we want to see pictures and we want to hear from you on ways you've diversified your garden.
That and let us know how you're making your food.
Because we're going to need you.
We're going to need you. We're going to lean on you guys through this. So thank you guys very much. Don't forget, t-shirt code GROW 2021. And check out our Amazon link for all the products we recommend. It'll help support the show and cost you nothing more. And until next time, learn to grow and grow for change. And Batavia, tell them something good.
My irrigation system is set up. Oh, and see ya.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. If you want to see what we're up to or just stay up to date on all the announcements regarding the show or anything gardening, then you can follow us on Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV.
We love seeing what you guys are doing, so use hashtag BYG podcast in your posts, and we'll be sharing your gardens with the Backyard Gardens community.
And check us out on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we will post this show, all of our other shows, clips, and then also some gardening tips and just gardening entertainment. And you can see us at our website at backyardgardenstv.com. But that's it for today's show. So help us as we learn to grow and grow for change. And until next time, we'll catch you guys later. We'll call this one a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.